Welcome to the Event Pro Show, your ultimate guide to the world of corporate events. Whether you're a corporate event planner, experiential marketing pro, producer, technician, or anyone involved in creating exceptional events, this podcast is your go-to resource for valuable insights, expert tips, and inspiring stories from the industry's leading professionals.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Event Pro Show. I am your host, Seth Mackey. I'm the CEO of LEMG. We're an event production company based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we travel all over the country producing events for mainly meeting planners that produce these corporate events. And so today's guest is such an exciting addition to our episodes because I've known Najana for years now. And before I get into it, I'll read your bio, Najana. Najana White is the vice president at Miles Partnership, where she helps destinations and brands tell more meaningful, human-centered stories that truly connect with audiences. With over 15 years in hospitality, travel, and tourism, Najana brings a powerful mix of strategy, creativity, and leadership, focusing on building strong teams, driving impactful partnerships, and shaping a more inclusive and forward-thinking industry. Please welcome my friend Najana White to the show.
Woo! That was great.
That's the crowd. That's everybody.
I'm so happy to be here, but I always feel like when people read your bio, you do a little bit of like, cringe moment.
Right.
But
are they talking about me?
Okay. Yeah. It's like, hurry up, go through it.
Yes. You know the craziest bios in the world, just side note before we even get into anything?
Yes.
If you go to like kids concerts, like orchestras or something in school, the teachers that they'll introduce each other, like these music professionals that teach these kids, they have the longest bio. It's like everything they ever have done in their life, they're like pages long, like every single one of them. I don't know if that's an industry thing or something. So yours was pretty short is all I'm saying.
I like, what it is that I think I spent, I took a year off in my career from CVB to where I am an agency now. And I went to tech startup culture for a while. And the thing that I realized is that a lot of those people who are just like you, who are CEOs of these startups, and they raise millions and millions of dollars in seed rounds and funding, they get on the stage and they're like, welcome, Seth, CEO of LEMG, just finished raising a $70 million round. Welcome to the stage.
Right.
And then I'm like,
that's the bio.
Yeah. And they're like, that's it. That's all you need to know. And then they just like get into the content. And so I think in our industry, especially I think me being young and I change my hair often, all the things, people sometimes are like, who is this girl? And like, why is she up here? So I guess like the bio is necessary, but it's still like a little bit.
Totally. And I've met you, people haven't met you. They got to know what you do. And I did, like I said, we've known each other for years now. We've been on a board together. We run into each other every once in a while at networking events and stuff. But I did a little research beyond that, getting ready for this episode. So I saw that you refer to yourself as a storyteller at heart. And I thought that was a really cool way of putting it. So what does that mean to you?
So for me, I feel like storytelling is how people make decisions. I honestly think in this industry, you often have a lot of destinations, you have conferences, planners, and everyone's trying to say the same thing, right? It's like, our city has the best food. We have the best people. Our conference is going to have education that is going to be exactly what you need. Our event has whatever. Those are great. Those are nice taglines. Those are nice sentences. But are you really telling me a story? And so I feel like it's not enough to just give me logistics. It's not enough to give me specs. It's not enough to give me a budget. But really, I'm trying to figure out how do I make someone feel about a city? When you travel somewhere or you go to a conference and you close your eyes and you think about you in that spot, how are you going to feel when you get there? What are you smelling? What are you hearing? What are you tasting when you think about that city? And I feel like that excitement is how people say yes or no to something. And I think there's data to back that up, right? And so when planners are looking at destinations, when people are looking at venues, they're changing the way that they need to say yes to a city. And you have to be able to tell that story appropriately. That just is like, here's 3 facts about us and here's why. But tell it and sell it in a way that's exciting enough for people to want to join and be a part of your destination.
I love that. I think that uniqueness actually, people are afraid of doing that because they think they'll
Yeah,
separate who will come here, but actually you're finding your people when you do that,
yeah,
who are attracted to your unique story. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
And you think carrying this a little farther, because you have all sorts of skill sets. You're a meeting planner, but you do all sorts of other things. But as it pertains to events, how do you take like a client's big ideas and turn them into meaningful in-person experiences?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So my role, so just quick background is Miles Partnership. Miles Partnership is a strategic marketing agency. We've been in the industry for 30 plus years. We
Hmm.
started out as a media company doing visitors guides in that space, and since have evolved and grown so much that we focus on both the leisure side of the marketing and the business and event side of the marketing.
Hmm.
We have so many different divisions. We have DMO, hospitality. We have 6 subsidiaries, so a whole production team, just like you all. We have a team in New Zealand. We have a team in London. We do all of these different things. And so, in my role, I'm kind of like this in between, right? So, I'm looking at the business, I'm looking
Hmm.
at your brand, but I'm looking at the experience. And so it's my role to take all of these things that I have, right? And so I am a CMP. I do have a DMO background. I've been on the events and marketing side. I've been on the tech side. Now I'm at the agency side. And so my thing is like, how do we help destinations and meeting planners move to like, here's what we offer, to here's what this will mean for your audience. And so if you're a destination, right, the audience that you're talking about is planners, wherever they may come
Hmm.
from, or event organizers. And so, it could be everything from that corporate meeting to a citywide. So what does that experience look like for them? And if you're a planner, I'm trying to help you. How do you navigate and create this in-person experience that makes your attendees say before they even leave, I need to make sure I'm here next year. And
Yeah.
so that's, I think, is like an interesting shift for people. Only because it's like, I think a lot of times people focus on like the agenda. We like to start with the outcome. Like
Yeah.
what is your goal in developing this experience? Like what, again, back to what do we want people to feel? What do we want them to do? How do you create champions? What do you want them to say when they leave? And then let's reverse engineer it and back it all up. And so for us, and what the industry is telling us is that 64% of planners say that they want something different. They want different formats. They want different experiences, whether they're at a convention center or they're at a destination. And so our goal is like, how do we make sure the majority of those planners are getting what they need by creating
Hmm.
that experience? And so for me, it's like, I need to design an environment that breaks the pattern. I need to design an environment that gets you to create a connection that is different than, it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's intentional and it's different from what you were doing before.
I really love that. I think that a lot of planners are by nature super organized, love the checklist, love
Yes.
they have their system and they want to grab a project, put it into their system and start working through checklists. But
Yeah.
your approach, I'm just thinking back, even in association stuff that we worked on, you always ask kind of this, what do you want people to feel like when they're there? And
Yeah.
let's start there. Think about that for 5 minutes, even. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a long time. What do we want them to walk away feeling like? And then put it into the checklist. I think
Yeah.
the same thing happens in AV too, where a project comes along and you want to, the instinct is to say, we get it. Let's just put it in this kind of box that we know and work
Yeah.
through the process so we can get them pricing. But
Yeah.
if you take 10 minutes and even whiteboard out ideas, oh, we could actually do something really unique and special
We can
here,
do something
changes.
cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the attendee experience can be changed in a really in a real profound way just by that extra little question at the beginning. And it doesn't have to take a long time,
Yeah.
that ideation.
I think something that's interesting is traditionally both convention centers, event spaces, destinations are really used to giving you the logistic side of what they can
Yeah.
provide. So even as a destination, being on that side, especially on the sales side, you're like, here's the team, here's what we can provide you, site tour, venues, hotel rooms, great. Look,
Here's square footage, how many
yeah,
people
you
you
can
can fit in.
walk from this place. That's great, right? But we're starting to see the industry shift. So logistics are always going to be important because I need to be able to make quick decisions in a quick amount of time. But that
Mhm.
element of experience design is shifting. So you even have titles are shifting, right? So, we know a lot of meeting planners and event planners, but now you're seeing experience designers, event producers,
Yes, for sure.
experience curators. And so
Mhm.
I think we have to shift that mindset, and we have to even shift the way that we market, right? And the way that we visually tell that story, because we're moving from just selling space or selling a city to now we have to sell transformation. We have to sell a memory. We have to sell an emotional connection.
Yeah.
And so an emotional connection is the difference of two cities that have very similar footprints, very similar product as far as like their meeting space and their hotel landscape.
Mhm.
That emotional connection, that memory that you're trying to sell is the shift between someone getting the business and someone who's not.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, on that note,
Yeah.
how do you think organizations typically fail to achieve results with activations? I know that, experiential and activations is a really big part of a lot of events, and it's kind of an ever growing segment of live events. But
Yeah.
how do you see kind of a failure? You have all these resources, you brought all these things to a space, all this energy, all these people, all
Yeah.
this money's been spent, and then it falls flat. Like,
Yeah.
how do you see the organizations typically fail in that arena?
So the biggest thing that I'm seeing, just honestly, is that people treat activations like this one boom quick moment instead of a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so to give you an example, let's say that you are coming up on a big trade show and you have a new brand. You want to focus on something different in your destination. The idea is here, like, okay, there's an audience that we're talking to. Let's do this thing at this show. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. And I've experienced it. So now I'm a planner. I'm seeing something new that your destination is doing. I love it. I'm excited. I'm telling other people, come over to the booth. Let's engage. Look at what they're doing. Now, let's say I'm texting someone and they're not there. And they're like, don't worry. I just found out they're going to be at X show. Now you're
Mm-hmm.
at a new show, completely different activation. And so someone who was excited to get again this experience from you, it's gone. So I feel like a cool pop-up or a booth doesn't matter if it's not connected to an overall bigger strategy. Like you know what I mean? It has to be,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's back to the storytelling piece of it. Of like you have
Yeah.
to take me through this story with you. If I'm seeing you for the first time, if I haven't seen you in a while, if I don't know what's new at your destination, you popping up and saying, boom, here's what's new, and then that's the only time you mention it, that's not going to do anything for me. So I think you really have to tie it back to purpose. Again, you got to tie it back to that outcome, tie it back to your audience, and then take them through this pathway with you that almost feels like I understand what they're trying to do. Otherwise, I think it's just like pure noise. So you
Yeah.
really have to
Yeah.
get to a place where you move from, I think, a transactional activation, if you know what I mean. Like people do the
Yeah.
like, oh, we're having a dinner and our city is known for chocolate and we're bringing you some chocolate. Yay. But what else? Like,
Right.
what else are we
Yeah.
doing? So, how do we move from that kind of like transactional piece to immersive? And
Yeah.
I think it's a mix of, again, participation, leaning in, breaking up some of the normal one off moments, and then creating a streamlined strategy through that so people want to be a part of it. Like I think of even me on the attendee experience, right? When I think of some destinations or venues that do it well, people that I'm not even that are part of our industry, I'm texting them. I'm taking pictures like, oh, there's this cool thing. Now, if I'm going to another show and I want to have that experience again, I know where that booth is, and maybe they've
Mm-hmm.
elevated it from last time, but you see the through line. And so, conversations that we have often are like, well, what does this look like for you for a year? When someone looks at their trade show matrix and they look at their partnerships and they look how they're showing up digitally, their media footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. Is every ad that you're doing during this year different? Okay, is that different ad telling a story, or is it going to confuse someone? Do they not have like a brand identity to reference? Do the ads that you're putting out there publicly match your booth in person? Okay, yes, no, like let's navigate through that. Okay, you have a booth and now you're having dinners or you're having lunches or you're having breakfast or you're doing activations. Are those just one off because they match the show, or do they match who you are at your core as a destination? The reasons that sometimes activations don't connect is because people don't actually know who they are at that core. They don't actually
Yeah.
do the back end of the research. They don't do the research and development. They don't do the messaging house. They don't do the stakeholder interviews. And so sometimes they are like, well, this is who I think we are because a couple people have
Right.
said it. Or they're like, this is who I think we are because we did this 5 or 10 years ago. The
Hmm.
planners of 5 or 10 years ago are not the same planners of today. They want things that are different. They need things that are different in order for them to make decisions. The audiences
Right.
are different, right? We have so many new generations of people who are coming into not only the workforce, but who are the attendees. You have to give them activations that are different from what you think you needed 5 or 10 years ago.
I really love that. And you're actually the first question I asked you. You say that you're a storyteller at heart. It's really showing in how you're answering that. Is the fact is that an activation has to have a story. You have to set someone up to understand what's happening.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's so much input from every direction of
Yep.
every individual. Whether your devices or in person or in a new city. So you're right. Like just an activation, just there, not
Yeah.
tied to any storyline or concept.
Too
It doesn't
boring.
really make sense. It's like
Yep.
I mean, that's fun. I'll take the free thing or do the thing, but like it doesn't make
Yeah.
it didn't make the impact that you thought it would,
Yeah.
as opposed to a story. And I think it's interesting. So it's like it's brand dependent too, right? So if it's a national brand, they have a brand story going on that people
All right.
already have access to. But
Mhm.
for like smaller companies, you have to figure out a way to tell a story, tie it to your activation, all in kind of one day.
All in one
So
day.
it's a unique
Or
story. It's a unique way of doing it.
or the other piece that I think a lot of people miss out is on like the pre-con strategy, right? And so I think something that we all hate as attendees,
Mm.
sorry to all of the associations on here, but we hate the whole like you register for a trade show and then like the month before the trade show, your inbox is filled with shit. Like it's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
come to our booth to do this, do that. And then you're like, damn it, I wish I can
Yeah.
just like turn it like, and sometimes you're not even their audience, right? And so I get this a lot because I'm a CMP. Like I get all the like, come, as a planner, come to our whatever. And it's like, well, my role is on the marketer side and I'm in client services and I'm doing a lot of that, but you're like overwhelmed with it. But I think where a lot of people miss is building up that strategy per show throughout the year. So,
Mm.
the top of the year starts and some people are already engaging in events in January. So if your pre-con strategy is not only to like have people come to the booth at that show, but imagine what it looks like on social. Like, what is your organization talking about on LinkedIn and on Meta platforms, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, starting to build that up there. And then, like, okay, you have your show in January. Where are you all in February or March? Start to send an email out there randomly. Like, it doesn't have to attach to a show, but how are you continuing that build up? And I think about it like in anticipation of, like you said, a national brand, like a relaunch, right? And so,
Hmm.
before we got started, we were talking about Jordan. And so there is a brand and an emotional connection behind the Jordan brand. There's the element of people, what they used to do is get up on Saturday morning, wait in line for their Jordans, and that's the experience, right? And so you get there, there's other people like you there, there are fanatics, people want this shoe so that
Hmm.
everyone can wear it to school or work on Monday, right? There's a
Yeah. Yeah.
connection there. But you have to build that shit up. You have to, now things are different. People have chat bots and things online that they are not waiting in line on Saturday morning anymore.
Hmm.
And so you have to be able to tell this through line and almost get people anticipating so that you're building up to your line on a Saturday morning. And so
Yeah.
you can do that throughout the year. So if your big shows are January, are, June, August, and then October, what are you doing in between that to make people say like, I need to show up and I need to get to their booth. I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to build
Right.
that to see what they're going to do at this show, even if
And
they
you
are
make that
different.
email irrelevant of like the emails don't
Correct.
really work, by the way. But when
Yeah.
you're there, you're like, oh, I know them.
I
I'm
saw this before.
compelled.
Yeah. Like,
Yes.
did they send that email about that thing? Like, that's
Yeah.
what you want. You want enough curiosity and confusion at the same time. Like, you want to, like, I think I saw them.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. So you want people to be curious about you, um, and you want them to be connected enough and confused enough
Yeah.
to explore who you are, and then it's your job once they get there for you to hook, line, and sinker them in.
Love it. Love it. And another thought of how an attendee kind of moves through events. You go to a lot of networking events yourself. I
Mhm.
see you're always somewhere, like you're always,
Yeah.
or you're speaking somewhere, or you're going somewhere, or whatever, all these
Yes.
networking events. And you've planned your fair share of networking events too.
Hmm.
So what are the most exciting trends you've seen at these types of events over the last year or so that make it a better experience? When you go to these things, you want to connect with people, you want to meet
Yeah.
people, you want to make business connections, those types of things. What are you seeing right now that are actually refreshing, as opposed to the stale kind of same old thing?
Same old, same old. Okay, so again, like activations, I think are
Mm,
great trends. But typically how they do it. So before you walk into the doors of something, before you get to a registration and you're like, here's your name badge, like how are people doing that differently? And so I'm
mm,
seeing a lot of people like activate the walls and experiences where people really wouldn't come from. So you see this a lot actually like in weddings and social events. But
hmm.
people do the whole like wall with a champagne and a name tag. So you got to reach out to a hand to get it. So I love the experience of like
Right.
before someone even sitting down and taking that like there's sometimes this anxiousness around a networking event. You've
For sure.
already captured them into like event excitement. So I love kind of like any activations like that. I'm seeing food as a next level trend. And so when
Mm,
we did some research, we saw like I think around like 71% of people had this concept and idea that they are moving away from the standard F&B. And I think we can say this because you and I, and among listeners, is we're friends. So how often are we actually staying at the venue to eat? If we don't have to, we're
right.
leaving.
Right.
Um, and so I was like,
Yeah.
do you want
Yeah, it's
to work
true.
somewhere else? Like that's what we're doing. So I'm seeing that as an emerging trend because even if your food is standard, especially if you're like a convention center or a hotel, people are navigating how to even make it look different. So as a typical
Hmm.
for your past hors d'oeuvres, right? They're putting them in different containers, different categories. They're playing around with flavors and style and color and spice so that even if you thought about leaving, it's like, well, before I go, let me see what this is over here. So I kind of
Yeah.
love that trend. Um, I'm loving the trend. I hate to say it, but I'm loving how people are infusing like AI with experience. And
Mm,
so, depending on what that is, and so you're seeing a lot of people like, take a photo of yourself here, and then like, here are some different ways that you can make yourself AI in this photo. So I love that. I'm seeing it even with like backdrops and event design. So AI/holograms or AI this and
hmm.
AI that. So I love the idea of kind of like attaching that, but again with like experience. So what happens when you get here and you do that thing? Because I think it's still a bit exciting. And then the other I think trend that I love is like just playing around with color. I
Mm,
think that
yeah.
a lot of meeting spaces and brands have their traditional like this is our ballroom, this is what it is, but when you walk in there's something I think really a blend of both like tech and human connection when you can transform the space with like color and shape and balance. And so I remember like years ago when I was on the destination side and we would walk in and do a site tour, if the colors were like brown and muted,
Yeah.
you're like, damn, they're not gonna book in here, right? But if they
Yes.
if they happen to set it up and that is that, but they have um different things bouncing around the room. If there's colors, if there's shape, if there's sound, if there's noise, then people seem to not look at the carpet. And so you're like,
Yep.
yeah, keep walking through. So I think
That's
that
right.
emerging trend that I love is that people know that they have a space, but within that space, it's like, how can we transform this to make you feel like you're not walking into a ballroom, make you feel like you're not just walking into a typical like trade show. So, and I'll say this last piece. I love when people play around with unused space. And so when you think about
Mm,
it, idea of like real estate, right? You have your space above your building that is still real estate. Like that's still a cost. You know, you see it in bigger cities
yep.
like a New York rather than like a Carolinas where we are. But I love the idea of people playing with space that's unused. So if there's a wall, like I said
Yeah.
in the beginning, what is a wall that you can tap into? What are you doing on the floor, right? A lot of times people are looking down. What are you doing above the head? So is there something aerial that you can hang up? You know, how are you playing with that? Are you projecting something up, down, on the sides, on the wall? I'm starting to love that more and more. And then I know I said that was the last one, but I would say the other thing that I'm
Bonus. Is it a bonus one?
bonus. I love like rolling networking events. And
Hmm.
so even if there is like a typical like happy hour time slot,
Yeah.
as opposed to just like come in for drinks, it's on flow and there's activities happening. So no matter where you come in, right? Think about it as an experience of like, oh, I come in and it's like, oh, people are playing pool and they're playing cards over here and they're doing this. And so I'm not just coming into a space where I have to awkwardly like hold a drink or not drink and like,
There's like
hey,
three cocktail tables and
yeah,
nothing
like,
else.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing else. But like create some motion for people. Like create an activity. Like let people
Yeah.
do something when they're there. And I think that lowers the anxiety in the room. That increases the conversation. Like I'll sit down with anybody and beat you in Connect Four. Like you and me, you want to play an
Hmm.
Uno game? Like, baby, let's do it. I'm gonna draw two, draw four. I'm do it to you. I hurt
That
feelings.
is so true.
That
And
is
that breaks down the walls between introvert, extrovert too, because
correct.
like
Correct.
that's an important thing for an introvert having an activity. And then you can also slow down and take some time with somebody without
Yeah.
having to feel like you have to keep the
Yeah,
conversation going the
or
entire
without
time.
feeling like I have to run through my elevator pitch right now. Some of
Yes.
that
Yeah.
stuff and the trends that I've mentioned of like getting your name badge indirectly, having AI, FMB, infusing experience, like having activities, creating space above the room. All of those things allow you to have natural flow of conversation. That
Mm.
imagine you're going to get your badge with someone else and you are both trying to take a picture and you laugh because someone's in your phone. Like now it's like, oh, I always take pictures before. And it's like, oh, do you like at work personally? And now someone's naturally getting into what you do, what this looks like, what your goals are, rather than the hard sell and the hard pitch.
Right.
Mhm.
Those are great. I want to go to that networking event.
Yeah, maybe we'll create it together. Who knows?
I want to talk for a second. In preparation for this episode, too, you sent me a report that Miles Partnership produced right at the end of last year in partnership with another organization, but it's called The State of the Meetings Industry. And this is, you can purchase this, right?
Yes, you
You
can.
can
Hmm.
purchase this report. So you can go
Yes.
to Miles Partnership's website and purchase this. So, but this is a really expansive document that I love reading these things. It's got all sorts of infographics, easy to read for people like me that don't like, dense text.
Yes.
Lots of good stats on
Yes.
there. But out of those 100+ pages, I do have a few thoughts that I wanted to talk to you about
Yeah.
because these are realities of the meetings industry, and you've alluded to them a little bit here already. But the real big overarching theme that I wanted to talk about is change is coming. That idea that change is coming, and everything changes all the time for sure. That's not
Mhm.
actually unique, but there are large shifts happening right now. So you talked about this percentage of 64.5% of planners agree that convention centers are falling out of favor due to attendee fatigue with being in one building the duration of the event.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts around that? And I want to hear your thoughts. I don't know if it's necessarily a negative or it has to be a negative, but what are your thoughts around that?
So I think it's a huge opportunity. I think that traditionally, like I've said before, 5 or 10 years ago, you have a meeting venue, whether it's a convention center, you have a hotel, a unique meeting venue, whatever it is. And what you're doing is you're packaging and you're selling your space to keep everybody here at once. Now,
Hmm.
I think what's interesting about this data is that we all have been in places before where you get that itch and you're like, I gotta get up, I gotta walk around, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just go outside, I'm gonna do a lap in the parking lot. You got to do something, right?
Right.
And so I think there's an opportunity to figure out how do we again move that to that experience design. How do we create spaces where if we only have one place, if we only have one venue, that we can give them multiple experiences in one. So how do we get up and move them
Mm.
around? And so and again, it depends on season, depends on your location, like where you're at. But I think that there's an opportunity and challenge there. So what do you do? Like I think the biggest thing is if you have somebody all day in one meeting, how do you break that up? How do you give them a
Hmm.
break on another side of the building? How do you create some pathways for people to explore allergies pending, like outside a deck, like giving them just a different experience? Because
Hmm.
you have sometimes that people are in meetings all day, like a trade show or like, a big conference, that you get there to that convention center at 8 a.m. and you don't leave out of that building till 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That is so taxing. And like you get to sessions sometimes and you're like shifting at the wall and you're like, damn, what did they just say? Because you've
Right.
missed. So I think it's a huge opportunity to figure out how do you activate spaces that you normally wouldn't. But I also think it's an opportunity for people to ease up on some of their restrictions as venues and destinations. And so
Mm.
how do you bring in things that are a little bit more local? So, I'm thinking about an event I was attending, and I was there like the whole day, and along with the F&B, the break came and I was like, where can I go that was local? And what they did was they were like, hey, before everyone, scatters, just come around this back end. We want to give you all, like, I don't know, they kind of made it seem like they were just giving us like a giveaway or something. And I wasn't interested, but the person I was talking to was interested, so we kind of went, and then we got there, they did like a whole like food truck experience.
Yeah.
But it was
That's
based
cool.
on the food truck experience was based on their kitchen, right? So they didn't actually have food trucks, but they set
Oh,
it up as
okay.
in like you can get this part kind of food, you can get this kind of
Hmm.
food, and it made people like, oh, okay, this is something fun that we can do. And again, out came the
Yeah.
phones, out came the like, oh, which line are you gonna get in? And so I think I love that. Like, so there's opportunity, like I don't want to be in this convention center all day, or I don't want to be in this hotel all day. But if I have
Yeah.
to, make it fun for me, make it interesting, allow me to kind of shift and move around where I can.
Hmm. I love that. I mean, how many times have you've talked to friends that are like, it must be cool to travel, and you're like, well, I guess. But I mean, I went to Miami technically, but I was
Yeah,
in a ballroom the entire time.
yeah, I
And I
think it's
never once saw anything cool that was local or
correct.
anything.
So it's funny that you say that because that's a conversation I have with my friends all the time. And so I tried this once. I think we did a conference for MPI Carolinas in Asheville many years ago. And a friend of mine, she's like, oh, I always want to go to Asheville. I'm going to come with you. And I was like, okay, but I'm at work. And she's like, yeah, but you're in Asheville. Like, we can do things. And I'm like, okay. And we were at work the whole time. And
Hmm.
so I think I've started looking at even my travel plans a little bit differently. And there was a moment in the middle that I didn't have the space to come like a little bit earlier or a little bit later just because of like my life personally. But I started to shift that. And so that's actually why I change my F&B options to be more community centered and local centered. But again, I think that's
Yeah.
an opportunity that people can do. Look at your partner list, look at your vendor list.
Hmm.
Sometimes people have to go with their kitchen for F&B, but where do you have wiggle room? And then how do you set somebody in there as partners a year ahead of time so that the next time this conference comes around or next time somebody else comes around, you have some different options for them. And so I started kind of setting up with like, if I can get in a few hours before and I always walk from wherever the convention center is to my hotel to just get a lay of the land of the neighborhood.
Right.
Um,
Right. That's
I'm
smart.
looking at any type of, stores, retailers, restaurants. Like, I love that. But it's funny because they're always like, oh, like Vegas, usually things that are like Vegas, Miami, they're like, "Oh, New York, like you get to go to such and such." And I'm like, the only place I've been to is the bodega at the end of the hotel block. like,
Right.
and
That's
maybe a
it.
client dinner. But other than that, they're like, "Did you get to go to?" And I'm like, "No, because
Absolutely
I'm
not.
working." So I'm trying to take advantage of that space a little bit more. Like go like a couple hours early, stay a couple hours late if I'm not tired, and do some like walking around the city. And instead of getting like hotel, I like chai lattes. So instead of getting like an iced chai latte at the hotel lobby, I will go
Hmm.
find like a local coffee shop and like do it there, just so I can say like, okay, I've had this experience in this destination.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. And, so maybe there is a workaround to this fatigue with traditional convention centers is just planning
planning
in
it in. Yeah,
a few different outings. It doesn't take much, but just something, giving people something to take back home to say,
yeah,
like, I was there in that
yeah.
town and I got to do something cool that's unique to that town.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of research studies that we invest in, like this one with future partners, is use the data to make the case for what you need. And so, in the
Yeah.
beginning of this, I said, like, my role is being at that intersection of experience, brand, and business. Like, the business case for anything is extremely important. So,
Hmm.
take studies like this, like, again, look at where they are, go to Future Partners website, go to the Miles website, purchase the study, and say, look, our audience who's right here, who they've done the samples with, who they've done, like, look at the study and say, based on what we need, we could potentially be losing business to X competitor, to X
Hmm.
country, because they are willing to use their data to do things differently. And so I think it doesn't have to be grand, right? And so don't do anything that's going to impact your business in a way that you're going to lose revenue, but start to make
Hmm.
those smaller decisions. So it's like, okay, well, let's add in this local vendor. I think about it in the sense of like airports, who we've talked about before we started recording as well. But airports, I think, always have this interesting like retail residency. So depending on the airport
Hmm.
that you go to, you have your standard restaurants in there, and then you'll walk past a space and it's like coming soon, and they have this like vector image of this place that's going to have this amazing bar and this amazing food and people laughing and all of that, and it's like coming soon 2026, and you go past that damn thing so many times that you're like, it's 2026, when are you
Right.
opening? And then by the time you get there, they're there, and they have their airport residency for a couple years, and then another thing pops up. And so I always think about it like that, of like start your little vendor residency small. Start with something local that people are going to love, that you haven't experienced. And I think it gives other people experiences into this world that we're in as well. And it doesn't always work, right? Depending on how you're set up, depending on where you are, you can't always do that. And I understand those restrictions as well. But where you can, create it. Like, this is what your audience wants. This is what the data is telling us. So why not do it, and do it well? And I think it's
Yeah.
also okay. The thing that I love about the planners of today, is that so many people are willing to build that relationship with you, that they're willing to work on something. So it's okay to say, Seth, this is one of my favorite things, but like, we're beta testing this out. We got three
Hmm.
new vendors. We're testing them out this year. We know that you've been coming up to us for X amount of years. You have some planners, and you have some spaces that they're going to come to you every year, every 2 years. They haven't moved. They haven't shifted. You know what they like. They know what you like. But that's your
Hmm.
chance with someone who is a champion planner, someone who's a legacy planner, who's standing in your space, who's been there X amount of years, to say, we value the relationship that we have with you for so long, and the relationship that we have with you, we value that so much that
Yeah.
we want to try something out, and we think that based on your attendees and based on the relationship that we have, that you will be willing to do that. Is that something we can try this year? Figure out if it works, use that as your data and case study now, and then decide, like,
Hmm.
hey, we're not shifting our F&B, so you're gonna have to deal with what you're gonna have to deal with, or we are, because we've tried it out and it works really well.
I love that. I love that. And I think it can be a win for all sorts of stakeholders. Like, first of all,
Yeah.
the city, the
Yes.
CVB should be helping you do this.
Hmm.
But by starting small, like you're recommending, you're building a case study. you're getting buy-in from not just the stakeholders that are putting on the event, but the actual attendees. This
Yeah.
year we're going to do something unique and local, but it's going to be a small win, kind of like, it's a home run,
Yeah.
and get everybody excited about it. When they come next year, they're going to start looking for it, and you can start investing in bigger, taking bigger swings for
Absolutely.
local events. But I think that's a cool way of looking at it, and kind of breaking that concept that there's a staleness in like convention centers. I think maybe it's
Correct.
just in the actual event planning itself
Mhm.
that it could be solved. I would encourage you to go to Miles Partnership website and buy the study, the State of Meetings, of the Meetings Industry study. It's really insightful, and I'd recommend it. I do want to shift gears here. I think our mutual friend Lauren Ansley recommended I do this with a guest,
Ooh,
and I've been waiting on the
okay.
right guest to do it on. So
Okay.
she recommended
Thanks,
I
Lauren.
do a lightning round.
Okay.
Of like just questions. And the lightning round is you're going to answer first thing that pops into your head. And I'm just going to roll
Lord.
through these questions. We're going to try it out. Are you game? Are you game to do
I am game. We'll see if you're game with my answers, but let's do it.
Oh, okay.
Don't cut me out.
Okay, here goes.
Okay.
Right now, when you attend events, like
Mhm.
you as Najana, an attendee at events that you do all the
Yes.
time, what is your favorite meeting length?
Okay.
What
Just
is it?
any?
First, yeah. Is it like 1 day, day and a half, 3 day, 1 hour? What's your favorite length when you're thinking about events?
I think I like 2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What's your favorite lunch meal?
Anything that is local in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Breakout session style.
Ooh, I love fireside chat or panel styles.
Okay.
Mhm.
Walk up song for a speaker.
Okay, since we're talking about me, okay, I need a vibe. Give me some Beyonce. Give me something.
It can't always be Beyonce, Najana.
Yes, it can.
I know
Seth.
you're a fan.
I think it can, absolutely. I need, you know what, walk-up music. I know it's a lightning round, but your walk-up music should make the crowd excited. I want people, when I walk out,
Love
like,
it.
hey, like, I want them getting up with me and doing something. So,
Okay, so it's got to be a vibe that matches the person.
yes, vibe that matches the
Got it.
person. Yeah.
Got it. All right, break snack.
Popcorn, my favorite.
I don't know. I knew you were going to say that, and I don't know
Yeah,
why.
because you know I love popcorn. I always bring popcorn.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it happens. Yeah. GS seating arrangement. So general session seating arrangement, like theater, rounds, classroom, in the round. What's your favorite?
So I'm
kind
going
of
to say this. I like mixed general session seating. I like soft seating and hard seating. So I'm okay with
Oh.
like
That's a wild
I
card.
like a little bit of like theater style / I want some couches. I want some high boys. Like I
Okay,
like
I know this is a
like,
lightning round, but like who gets the comfy chairs?
you got to get there on time and you decide.
Oh, early bird.
Or early bird gets the worm couches, or I feel like those are opportunities for major sponsors. Like, so
Okay.
like, yeah, you know, if you're a destination or you're whatever, do it.
Yeah, you pulled that. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite networking event style? Like, cocktail is a style, or offsite
Cocktail.
tour, or
Ooh, okay. So back to my points of trends. I love a networking event that is off site, and that is free flowing. So activities, engagement, brand activation. That's my favorite.
Love it. Okay, what's your favorite keynote speaker style? We've got like entertainment, educational, political leader, whatever, that when you walk in, you're like, yes, I'm in the mood for that.
I like the balance of like entertainment, but who understands our industry. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
what I don't like, I'm sorry about this, but I don't like the huge like motivational. Like, this keynote speaker is going to teach you how to be a leader. I'm like, save it.
Yeah.
But someone
if you all reach under your chair, you have my new book, and
yeah,
it's a gift
and it's
to
like,
you, and
but if you have like I'll say this really quick, but I went to a conference once and they had Brene Brown as a keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she got on stage and people were like right away, phones up, right? And so she said this thing and she's like, if you are recording me having a video, she's like, put your phones down. And she was like, this is my opportunity to be vulnerable, talk to you about what I've learned and like share into your industry. And she was like, and my need to be vulnerable sometimes, like I'm sharing raw thoughts and I don't want those to be recorded. And she's like, pictures, cool, but this is not for that. And she's like, I swear a lot. And I'm like, my girl, because I swear a lot too. And I don't want you taking a video of me being like, this shit is such and such. And they're like, don't book Najana. So I love the aspect of people who are like, not I don't want to say necessarily like celebrities, but people who are in entertainment that draw enough crowd because then you get the excitement of it.
Yeah.
But that they also understand our industry okay enough or well enough that there are some really key takeaways that we can learn from.
I love it. That was great. Hey, congratulations. That was the end of the sort of lightning round.
Woo!
First one ever.
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
Thanks, Lauren.
Nice. Yeah, thanks, Lauren, for that suggestion. All right, a few more questions for you.
Yes.
You've been hanging in there. I appreciate it. This has been a great episode so far.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
I always feel good when at the end, I'm like, oh, I learned a bunch of stuff. That's cool.
Yes. Okay. I like that. I like that stuff.
What do you think corporate events will? Oh, well, sweet. Yeah. What do you think corporate events will look like in 10 years? Like, nobody knows, but like, this is kind of like, what do you think it's going to be? This generation coming up, what are they going to want? And
so we talked about this off camera a little bit, but the idea of like AI. So I think there's going to be more people leveraging AI to raise the expectations and raise the experience. So back to the study, just a quick little bit. We found out that like 69% of planners were using AI to help them source destinations.
Crazy stat, by the way.
High as hell, right? Yeah. But this is what when we break it down, this is what they're using it for. Planning and logistics, activity inspiration, and then like a destination shortlist. So sometimes when people are like, where should I meet? Where should I go? They go to whoever their chat source is and ask the question. Now that you have those spaces, what should I do in those spaces? And it gives them a list. And now they're like, how should I help plan this? What does logistics look like? And so I think that is so interesting because what we talked about previously is like, I remember when I first started using like any type of AI, I felt like I was cheating. I felt like,
right.
I can't tell anybody I'm using this.
Right. You're like looking around when it comes up on screen. You're like,
when someone comes, I'm like slamming my laptop shut. I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah.
Like,
nothing. What
is it? Nothing. Right. Clear browser history. But what I realized, and in doing that, my prompts were so freaking long. Like I do remember I was at a conference once and I was using like a chat when it first started, and someone came up and they were like, "Damn, you might as well write the document yourself because
you already wrote it."
Yeah, I'm like, I want this to be as much as me as possible. So I think what we're going to see in the next 10 years is that level of like AI dependence is going to continue to grow, but as a research option, because I think back in the day, even when I used to like do my own research, right? I have a encyclopedia, I got a thesaurus, you're doing bibliographies, you're looking at all of these sources, you're reading books. This thing can do that in a matter of seconds, right? So I think that we're going to shift more into AI, but I think what's really important here is that people understand that even now and in 10 years, AI is going to be the entry point. It is not going to replace destinations and CVBs. And so they're going to use AI as an entry point because that's easier. It's still on the CVBs and the people there and the culture and the experience that you're trying to create to close the deal. So I think people are going to start using AI to come with more, again, raising that expectation and raising their experience. It's up to the destination, the partners in that destination, agencies like Miles to be able to connect the dots and give people the experience that they're looking for. So even as like marketing shifts, right? I oftentimes look at agencies who are outside of our space. Like I look at tech and higher ed and, arts and culture and film, because I love the creative work that they do and the ad specs that they create and the video. And I'm seeing how people are developing advertorials, right? And so we see it, a lot of time during the holidays, and you can see, you're like, is this a Coca-Cola ad that is a bad AI version? And then Pepsi will be like, here's a better one. And then Coca-Cola is like, no, here's a better one, back and forth. I think you're going to see more of that in 10 years. You're going to start to see the trend of I use this AI and I've already crafted what I want my trade show to look like. I've already designed what I want my networking event to look like, literally down to the visual, down to the video vectors or whatever. It's going to be up to the destination. It's going to be up to agencies like ours to say, this is how we can bring that to life and make it better than your AI ever designed it. Or we're going to have a little come to Jesus moment and be like, this that you created is some AI shit, girl. That is not real. That is not even possible for the budget that you have. So
Yeah.
let's work on like giving you what you need, or again, giving you that emotional connection and that memory that you're trying to create, but within your budget and within your limit. So I think that's what we're going to start to see in the next 10 years.
Love it. Love it. That was such a great answer. I have learned a ton in this conversation, and I really appreciate you stopping by. You've been on the list for quite a while, so I'm glad that the stars aligned, and thank you for joining us today. If people want to learn more about you or Miles Partnership, what should they do?
First things first is watch this podcast. So if you got
Number
to this
one,
point, you've already watched it. So there's that. Unless you want to like cut this and put it at the front, that would be great. The second thing is LinkedIn is like my favorite social platform. So if you are seeing this for the first time and you're hearing Seth and I, this is our normal banter. And this is how I normally act. So follow me and connect with me on LinkedIn, Najana White, and then go to our website. So milespartnership.com. Obviously I'm first entry point on LinkedIn and we can connect there and I can share you information, but go to our website, look at our team, look at the work, look at the things that we do. And let's figure out whether you are a destination and you are like, hey, our marketing needs a little bit more. Our strategies need an upgrade, whether that's on the leisure side or, meetings and conventions. That's the space that I'm doing a lot of work in right now, which I love because it feels like a full circle moment for me. So reach out there. Or whether you're a planner and you're saying like, hey, I am looking at how to elevate my events and I'm looking at how to create some marketing that I can continue to grow my attendees year over year. Whoever you are, reach out, let's connect. Even if we just chat socially, I'm always open to do that. So that's how you can connect with me.
Fantastic. And I know Miles Partnership is working on some really cool stuff, works with some great clients. So I would highly recommend you check them out and, become friends with Najana on LinkedIn for sure. Yay. She is very active. Yes. But thank you so much for stopping by. This has been great.
Thank you. This is awesome, Seth. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for watching this episode of the Event Pro Show. If you liked what you heard and you want to hear all of our backlog of episodes, you can go to theeventproshow.com. But either way, thank you for taking a little time with us today, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.
The Event Pro Show is a production of LEMG, video by Nick Barrett, audio and post-production by Prince Thompson. You can learn more about us at lemg.live.